This is the Relevant Podcast.
It's episode 1139, and it's the Relevant Podcast. Here in Orlando, I'm your host, Cameron Strang, and joining me from Loverland, Virginia, it's Jesse Carey.
Hello, hello.
From Nashville, it's artist, producer, mogul, Derek Miner. Welcome back.
What up, dog?
And just down the street there, it's our managing editor downtown, Emily Brown.
Hey, y'all.
Marty's not joining us because we are recording this early on Monday morning, the day before you're hearing this on Tuesday, the day after the Super Bowl. It's pre-dawn out in LA, so we let Marty off on this one. So
it might as well be pre-dawn everywhere else in the country. I don't know who else is of this mindset, but I feel like the day after Super Bowl is like, it should be just a national holiday. Let's just call it what it is. No one is operating at 100%. Like, we all stayed up late. We all ate way too much. Like, everyone just wants to have a morning. I feel like, again, common sense party here. If you put a reasonable person in office, this is a no-brainer. 2 federal holidays on the books right now. And you can eliminate like President's Day or some of these ones that we don't even know. Like, what are we celebrating with President's Day, by the way? You know, just that we have presidents.
Assume the presidents.
Yeah, but why do they get a day? They're the president.
So true.
We need a whole day just for them? Like,
no. Hold on.
Who are
That's a
these
step in the
egomaniacs?
right direction. Jesse, if you remember when we were kids, it was George Washington's birthday, Abe Lincoln's birthday. They condensed them into just President's
How
Day.
old
We're checking
are
them.
y'all?
It doesn't matter. These
Check 'em all
egomaniacs don't need a day. They take up too much of our mental space anyway. They get the State of the Union. That's it. And then
Dang, Emily. Y'all just looked over what Emily just said.
Yeah,
You just
let it
gloss
go.
over
We're moving on. The train is left.
What'd she
We
say?
ain't moving on.
What'd she say?
Hey, she said, what
I was
is
talking about
all
celebrating George Washington's birthday, and I was like, how old are y'all?
I'm just saying, when I was a
That's
kid, I
crazy.
just remember elementary school. It was like random in the early part of the year. There was a random famous presidents all back to back. And then it was like they just condensed it into President's Day. That's all. That's all I was saying.
That might have been a Florida thing, my buddy.
Either way, there's a couple we can take off the books, and let's make day after Super Bowl. No one wants to wake up early day after Super Bowl.
So true.
And then voting day.
But I heard somebody say, that's a good one. I heard somebody saying they should just move Super Bowl Sunday to Saturday night, or start the game at noon West Coast, 3:00 Eastern. So it's done by dinner time.
No, it's part of the Super Bowl experience is staying up to ungodly hours. Kids get to stay up late and waking up a little groggy the next day.
Yeah, do it on Saturday
Oh,
night.
so did we skip
No,
church?
you-
Wow.
No.
Go to late
Guys.
service.
Sunday.
Guys,
Super Bowl Sunday, bro. Like, we not moving it to Saturday.
This country-
man, look, somebody that don't watch football said that. That's like, Emily came up with that one. We gonna
Okay. Why am I catching strays?
A Swifty came up with that idea.
We don't claim that. We don't claim that.
Like I said, this is easy. Just let's just have a holiday. It's not that big a deal. Guess what? What everyone needed to get done today, we'll get done tomorrow. It's no sweat, right? Like we'll work it out. This and the day we all vote, they should just be federal holidays. All you got to do is after the Super Bowl, relax, clean up the house. You had a bunch of friends over. You got some nacho platters that have some melted cheese to get scraped off. Take care of that on Monday. Then go vote.
Wait a second. Why is the day that you vote that's a national holiday, right?
Okay, how about this?
No, it's not.
I got the perfect
It's
solution.
not a national. I just thought about why in the world do we not have a national holiday for
It came
people to
it came
get
up
off
in the last election cycle as an issue of voter discrimination, because more marginalized people groups are less able to get off work to go vote.
Right.
They don't have the flexibility. So it's like it was being pointed out that maybe it not being federally protected that you can go vote is a way to marginalize certain voting blocks.
Guys,
That's terrible.
here's the solution, though. We rearranged the whole election system, and you vote the day after the Super Bowl. And
Oh
then
yeah,
we
because you want a
market
bunch
this
of
thing.
hungover people deciding the presidency.
Exactly. Everyone is like, no one's amped up. No one's all like fired up. They were too preoccupied watching the Super Bowl last night. You know, everyone is rolling into the polls just like, all right, I'm just gonna It takes the temperature down a notch. Everyone's in Super Bowl mode.
I don't know if I can get into the truck with you on this one, Jesse.
I'm not on that one.
Idea.
Look, I can see the marketing plan.
Also, why are you moving it from November to February? You're moving
because it's perfect. It's perfect. Because
we're messing with a lot of things.
Look,
here.
Exactly. We're shaking things up. This is common sense. Okay. Look,
why not the day after Thanksgiving? At least it's in the same month, and most people are off that day.
No, I am trying to move as little as possible the day after Thanksgiving.
And you're traveling. No one's in their home
on
state.
Black Friday. No, you travel on Sunday.
I know, but a lot of people are out of town.
But you won't be in your state.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
True.
But day after Super Bowl, and I can see the marketing campaign, you have one thing to do today. That is it. All you got to do is one thing. Polls are really close to the house. All you got to do is roll up there at some point. That seems, guys, I think this is the solution, and no one will forget. No, because a lot of people forget. Like, oh, today's the day I got to vote. I forgot, man. Like, I got lunch plans or whatever.
So here's the thing with it though. Like, because some people might be really upset with how the Super Bowl ended up, right? Like they maybe lost a lot of money, or their team that they love lost. So then they're going in already discouraged about. Like they had this hope in something and then it doesn't work out. Do you want that mentality when you're voting for the future of America?
Yes.
Like,
yes, I want cold pragmatism. I don't want emotion. I want cold-hearted pragmatism.
That's not cold pragmatism.
No, that's emotion. I think about Offset from Migos. Offset bet $1 million on the 49ers last night. He just lost $1 million.
He is not in a good headspace right now.
I don't want him voting right now. That's what I'm saying. I don't think this works.
Offset does not need to be voting. Offset, he need to be
talking to a financial advisor.
Yeah. If he got it, he's, you know what I'm saying? He got it.
That is true. That is crazy that he could bet $1 million and like he could, I don't know, still keep his house and stuff. Like that's just such a crazy, like I can't imagine that.
So that was a big part of what I was seeing on TikTok last night. Was like people placing crazy 7-figure bets on the game last night. I'm just going, how do you have $1 million cash to walk up to the sports book with? I literally watched the guy in a duffel bag just walk up with.
That's the problem. Some people may have that much money. They may have just that. And
they should give it to me. I did see Drake posted, he bet on the Chiefs, but he was like caption on Instagram was something like, I'm not betting against the Swifties or something like that. Yeah. And I was like, that's such a good strategy to go into.
It made it $1.5 million. So he's running luck today.
Yeah. But even if you're Offset Drake level, $1 million cash is a tremendous amount of money.
Still a nice amount.
Yeah. Especially just to have in cash. That is, to me, just ridiculous.
I also have a feeling because these bets are getting higher. I also have a feeling that that's not all their money, but like whatever sports betting platform they're using, that it's probably marketing.
And I know this about poker players. Like, you know, you're like, man, how are these guys paying $10,000 for a seat at this game or whatever? They get staked. So like you said, people buy partial, you know, like I'll put up $3,000 and I get 33% of your winnings. I'm betting on you as a player to win us money. There could be like I'm representing a group of, you know, bettors with my $1 million bet.
But why would you do that with sports betting though? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
Drake
that's true because you can just do your $300,000.
You can just place $3,000.
What I'm saying is that's marketing for because I think
FanDuel
Drake. When you look
at
Drake's Instagram, he like has stake actually in his bio. So I don't know if he's actually an owner in stake or what, but I think that bet may not necessarily be his personal money, but that might be part of the marketing budget say that Drake thought so much of our platform to spend this much money with us. I mean, right?
You've seen his plane. You know, he has like this huge Boeing private jet, but it's like, you know, like a commercial airliner. He doesn't own it. Air Canada owns it.
For sure.
And just Drake gets to use it and it gives them promo because it says Air Canada at one part of it, you know, on the side of it.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
Yeah. And the reason I don't think anyone's going with Drake, no one wants that awkward text of like, hey, Drake, I know we won. When you can just Venmo me.
I take Cash App too.
Whatever, I can pop by. You just let me know. Like, no one wants to be in that position, you know.
Collecting from Drake. All right. Well, we have a great show coming up for you today. We talked to Sarah Bessey, who's an author. She has a new book coming out. I'm looking forward to that. Also, at the end of the show, Valentine's Day is this week. It's a big week. You have the Super Bowl, you have Valentine's Day. Lots of food and being consumed this week. It got us thinking about love songs and worship songs. So we have a game coming up at the end of the show. Worship or WOOship? You don't want to miss that.
Oh my goodness!
Worship or WOOship?
Is that not the greatest name you've ever?
It actually is pretty good. I ain't gonna even lie.
Yeah,
I hated on it a little bit, but now that I'm thinking about it, it's actually pretty powerful.
I was telling Cameron I could not say without laughing because I think it's so funny.
All right, stay tuned. Up next, it's Slices. You're listening to The Black Keys. The song is Beautiful People. Well, today's show is brought to you in part by Factor. Factor's ready-to-eat meal deliveries take the stress out of meal planning and set you up for success in the new year. You get to skip the grocery stores, prep work, and cooking fatigue, and instead get chef-crafted, dietitian-approved meals delivered right to your door. They have over 35 meals to choose from every week, and if you have dietary restrictions like keto or calories or vegan or vegetarian, they have all that. Plus, they have other add-ons and smoothies and stuff. I have been a Factor customer for a while now. Every Monday, my new box shows up, and I'm telling you, it's what I eat. Their chef-prepared meals are ready literally in 2 minutes. Well, right now, Factor has a special deal for Relevant Podcast listeners. You can head over to factormeals.com/relevant50 and use code relevant50 to get 50% off. That's code relevant50 at factormeals.com/relevant50 to get 50% off. Go do it.
Season 4 of The Chosen is in theaters now, and the reviews that count are in.
Amazing. Did not disappoint.
Flurry of emotions. It was powerful, heartbreaking, uplifting.
You have got to come and see it. It is a message for everybody. I highly recommend that you come out and see The Chosen Season 4.
Episodes 1 through 3 of The Chosen Season 4 are in theaters till February 14th. So visit thechosenriseup.com and get your tickets now. That's thechosenriseup.com for tickets today.
Okay, it's time for
Slices.
What do you have, Jesse?
All right, so I want to tell the story of an individual who went out to set a world record. I really appreciate the Guinness Book of World Records. If you listen to this podcast for any amount of time, you know it's a big passion of mine. But I also know that they're sticklers, okay? They're not putting anybody in those books, especially since they moved to like yearbook style. But, when it was the old thick one, like the Farmer's Almanac, you know, you might be able to slide in there. Like you might be able to get a record because you're just a footnote. There was only like 8 pictures and every book, and one was the fingernail guy.
That's right.
And then the twins on the motorcycles.
The world's fattest twins riding motorcycles.
And then Robert Wadlow, that guy in like this Eastern European town who's like 9 foot tall. Right. The rest were just little footnotes. And you just kind of peruse them like, oh, that's interesting.
Sometimes you'd see a Niagara Falls picture, like somebody traversing it or something.
Yeah, but they were limited pictures. They played a little fast. If they were playing, and there was no internet to verify anything, they could have just made up most of those records at that point.
True.
There were no way to verify any of this. It's a different game now, right? Now they come out, they look like a yearbook. They're sparkly, they're loaded with pictures, the high gloss. There's no cheating here. Well, there was a guy.
You're doing a great job selling these. Like I'm expecting you to say, and you can get them for 15% off at a link in my bio right now. Like you're selling these like TikTok influencers. Are you pushing Guinness books on us?
I have accepted. I'm a Guinness influencer. Now,
exactly.
and,
that's what it felt like. You were like, oh, they're sparkly and wonderful and beautiful, and they're so good now. And I'm like,
and they could be yours for $19.99.
And I'm not going to lie,
influencer is crazy.
They used to be packed with lies, and now we're truthful. So time to update the collection. Well, Richard Plaud, a guy really wanted to be in there, and he decided his means of getting into the Guinness Book of World Record was to make the world's largest model of the Eiffel Tower made of matches. Seems pretty straightforward. He made it 23 feet tall. It took him years. He used over 700,000 matches and 23 pounds of glue to construct this. I mean, it looks just like the Eiffel Tower, but it's made of matches. It's very impressive.
Yeah, but if you're gluing it, what's the feat? That's just building a big model at that point. I thought the matches thing would be like, it's such a delicate process that it doesn't collapse like a house of cards. You know what I mean?
Can you imagine if he made someone mad and they just set it on fire?
Well, they might as well, because Guinness, but look, Cameron, to your point, yeah, I mean, he's not balancing them, but it's still going to take could you imagine making a 24-foot tall replica of the Eiffel Tower with matches and glue?
There's a later set.
Does this man have a job?
It was to get into the Guinness Book of World Records. He's a influencer, but things did not work out for Mr. Plaud. This is Mr. Plaud.
Influencer cannot become a thing.
I actually really needed to become a thing now.
Guinness went to go verify it, and apparently he used a type of matches that are not commercially available. Like, I don't really know the story behind the matches, but they're not matches you can buy at the store.
You got black market matches?
Are they? What makes a match legal or illegal?
Fire hazard.
I don't know.
Are they not all fire hazard?
He had some sort of custom matches made for this record, and Guinness said that because these are not approved matches, that it doesn't qualify for a record. And so this guy spent years, an untold amount of money, building an Eiffel Tower out of matches, and he did not check if the matches were Guinness standards, and they were not.
Rookie influencer mistake. You should always check.
If he was smart, though, he would have TikToked the whole process, like those guys who like clean like lawns that are overgrown, and it's just like watching a time lapse.
When he started this process, because it sounds like it took years.
Just watching a time lapse video of him building his matchstick Eiffel Tower. He could have made his money back.
Well, the Guinness released a statement, and they said they were really happy to approve it, but unfortunately, that they said they will admit they were a little bit too harsh on it, but it is what it is. So, congrats to Tawfik Dahar from Lebanon, who built a 21-foot Eiffel Tower out of matches in 2009. Record still stands, my dude. Record still. Now, look, there's an asterisk. There's an asterisk, Tofar.
This is crazy.
Tawfik Dahar, there's an asterisk, but he's still in the book, okay? He's still the record holder at 21 feet for Eiffel Tower matches. Now, Richard Plaud, he's not in the book, but he says there's just a line in the BBC story that said, Mr. Plaud hopes to put his tower on display in Paris for the Olympics in July. Now, here's the thing. He doesn't say how he plans to do that or that the Parisian Olympic Committee has asked him to do this. Yeah. Or is even aware of his plan. Or I don't know how he's transporting it there, but maybe he's just going to show up. It seems like Mr. Plaud doesn't do a lot of pre-planning. It seems like he just gets something in his mind and he just goes. Yeah. So he's probably going to show up to the Olympics with this thing. Moral of the story is check the fine print before going for a world record here.
That's tough. No, I want to know, how do you
be the moral of the story? There has to be another moral of the story, which is like, don't waste so much time building a match thing.
Yeah.
Like, can that be the moral of the story?
Why, if that's what he enjoys doing in his evenings? I mean, I watch TV. I mean, like, let him build his matches.
I guess that's better than just watching TV.
That's what I'm saying. Like, he's doing something constructive.
How do you work for Guinness World? Like, how do you become the person who decides, yes, that's a world record or not?
I mean, I've seen it on TV where like they're going for a record, and so they have a representative there, and they have a clipboard.
No, I understand.
No,
I'm
like,
saying, how do you be the representative?
Do you go on Indeed? Is there like a
What's the qualifications for that job? Just being a
Monster.
judgy person?
It's probably like a pub game where like whoever can drink the most Guinness like wins the ability to be on the team.
Yeah, that makes sense.
All I know is that they always seem very well. They always have like a clipboard and a lab
blazer.
Or a lab. They have a blazer or like a lab coat for some reason.
Yeah,
like,
that's right.
You know, and they're calculating things in real time. So it's very official. You know,
my parents kind of know someone who's in the Guinness World Records, so maybe we can get them to.
What do they do?
Out.
What was the feat?
He's known as the Texas Snake Man. He holds the record for sitting in a bathtub with like 84 rattlesnakes or something like that.
That man is
your parents
wild.
know this individual?
I noticed that Jesse was distracted, and then like he perked up when you said Texas Snake Man.
And why would he do that?
I think he like grew up in their same town. I know he asked one of my aunts out, and understandably, she said no. Yeah, he's done a couple things. Like he does like snake tricks. He's been bitten many times.
I would assume.
But yeah, he like if you look up Texas Snake Man, you'll see him. Videos.
I'm looking
I think he might
him
know
up right now.
See,
like right now.
That was like the golden age of the Guinness Book of World Records, where it was like records no one really wanted. Like, no, that one's good, man.
Jackie Bibby, yeah.
Jackie Bibby.
That's a bit. He might be losing he might not have all his fingers too, if I remember correctly. I could be thinking of someone else.
He doesn't have a foot.
Oh, that's what it was. Yeah, he lost a foot. Because a snake bit him.
And yeah, you have to cut it. You have to amputate it before the venom goes up your bloodstream.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well.
Yeah.
This man is wild. Jackie Bibby. He got snakes coming out of his mouth.
Yeah. Yeah. He does a lot of things. It's honestly a miracle he's alive, period. But like he holds the world record for, I think it's like something like sitting in a bathtub with like some snake or something like that.
See, Texans like to make fun of Floridians, but y'all really the same people.
We really are. We just have different privacy laws. So
That's
in Florida, if anything you do can be like public record, can be printed in a newspaper, basically. There's a little bit more privacy laws in Texas. So there's like crazy stuff happening all the time. You just might not hear about it.
If you look at his media appearances down there, Jesse, you can see that he was on The Tonight Show with Jay Leno, where he set his fourth world record on TV. He was on You Asked For It on NBC, where he set his third world record. But where he set his second world record was on TV for a show on Fox called Guinness Primetime. That seems like that show was tailor-made for you. Guinness Primetime, where I guess they just had a whole hour of people setting records.
Influencers.
Yeah, I mean, I why isn't Netflix firing this back up?
Seriously. You know? Actually, seriously. We like freak shows and people setting records. Why not?
And I feel like almost it happens a lot.
And heartbreak. Like, I want to see the episode where the guy, they cut away and they're like, all right, the final match on the Eiffel Tower for the new world record at 23 feet. And he's glued it on. He's like, yeah. And the guy in the lab coat comes over and he's like, got a like a magnifying glass. He's looking at the Eiffel Tower and he just goes, nope. Shut it down. Wrong matches. Sorry, man. No. And then they just zoom in on the guy's face. Just the heartbreak. Like,
wait a second. I'm on his Instagram and I'm looking at his tattoos.
Wait, the Texas Snake Man?
Yes.
This is so funny.
This is the most interesting man on the planet.
Should I tell my aunt to hit him up and go on a date with him?
No, he's only got 1 foot now.
No.
I assume he has a prosthetic.
Look, there's one picture of him holding looks to be like a 9mm. He has a bow tie on, a white church shirt, pocket protector, and one of those Charlie Chaplin hats on.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
that's Jackie Bibby.
Yo, this dude he got a tattoo of MTV on his shoulder, bruh.
Dude, I want to see a lot. What was it? The Tiger King docuseries. I want to see a Tiger King about Jackie Bibby.
Snake King.
Snake King. I need Jackie Bibby to have a show now. There's a picture of him right now. He has a snake One snake curled up on his crotch, one curled up on two curled up on his arms, one curled up on the top of his head, two on his stomach. Get this man a show tomorrow.
That's what I'm saying.
Like, we need to get him a show tomorrow.
Why doesn't he just host this new Guinness show? Just hosted by Jackie Bibby. And he's bringing snakes out all the time. Like, we're just going to, hey, you think this record is impressive?
Watch this.
I'm bringing snakes into the equation. Okay. Like, not only are you going to see like a dirt bike jump 27 school buses, he's going to land in a pit of vipers. Okay. We're taking things up a notch. Jackie Bibby style.
I do like this idea of a Guinness show, especially the ones where there is some like disappointment and heartbreak, because Jesse, I'm assuming you've seen the show Knife or Death on Netflix. Have you watched this one?
No. Okay. Do tell though.
So it's a competition series about people who like, first off, they make their own knives, and then there's like competitions where they have to like cut through things. No, they don't fight, but it's like an obstacle course.
It was in the era of the glass blowing show on Netflix.
I did like the glass.
They had that like metalworking one and this knife making one. I remember that. It was pandemic era.
Oh, Jesse, you would love this one. But anyways, like, so you have to like make your own knife to get on the show, but it has to be like certain, there's like specific, like dimensions and stuff that it has to be. And every now and then there would be someone who would get on, they'd be like, no, this isn't weighted right. And so like they made it to Knife or Death, and then they couldn't make it. I will say it's most of the contestants are a variation of Dwight Schrute.
Mm-hmm. I would assume the knife making industry.
He got a Snake Man documentary on his YouTube. I'm gonna watch it.
Derek, I mean, I really think I can get you connected with Jackie Bibby if you need me to.
Dog, I'm trying to meet
two
Jackie
calls.
Bibby. I'm trying to meet Jackie Bibby. I ain't gonna hold you.
But Emily, to your point, for even this knife making show, right?
Yeah.
It'd be a great twist is Jackie Bibby shows up, and now. You get your knives, Jackie Bibby gets a bunch of snakes. 2 men enter, 1 man leaves. You know what I mean? Like, who's not watching that? A knife fight with 700 snakes.
It's great. You really should watch it. There's one.
I'm not watching it.
A guy got sent to the ambulance because he got winded trying to like something.
So they just have, a show is good if there's just an awaiting ambulance right off camera.
It's the most insane. I was like in tears. Anyways.
All right. What do you have, Emily?
Really quickly, we were talking about making bets at the beginning of the show, and maybe, being cautious with it. But I saw this story that to me, it's very funny. Maybe it's because I grew up in a Southern Baptist church. But a woman in Arkansas won the lottery after she was motivated by a church sermon to buy a ticket. The Sunday before, her pastor had been preaching a sermon about praising God while still waiting for things on the way. So, you don't know what's coming, but you believe that a miracle is going to happen. Something's going to break through.
That don't sound Southern Baptist. That sounds like prosperity gospel. That sounds like some charismatic preaching right there.
It's funny to me because like Southern Baptists, we don't gamble. That's a ticket to hell.
No, Pentecostals
don't either.
No.
Yeah. So that's what's fun is like, she heard this sermon and thought, you know what? I got to go buy a lottery ticket. That's what this pastor's talking about. And she went and bought a lottery ticket and she won $100,000. So she praised God. But what was funny too is she didn't know she won for 2 days because she forgot to check her numbers, and the lottery, they were like trying to call her, but she thought it was scams. So then she was just ignoring it. And then she finally answered and they told her she won $100,000. She still thought it was a scam. And then they finally convinced her, like, no, this is legit. You have won the lottery. Come pick up your money.
The not to get in the weeds, but prohibition against gambling is that, and I've never really looked into it, to be honest with you, but I'm just going around the table here. Is that a cultural thing, or is there a verse that says not to do it?
My understanding is that it's the purity versus living like the world. Like the soldiers at the foot of the cross were gambling for
casting lots
and things like that. And so the bad people gamble.
But they also casted lots to see about a lot of things that weren't bad.
The casting of lots was looked at as just as how you do things. Like,
I would say that I was told that, and as a kid, like this is why it's bad. Bad people do it, and whatever. But number two is more of a stewardship thing. That Jesus talked a lot about stewardship, and that is not good stewardship of the resources that God's entrusted you with. Sort of.
I always heard it was that, but it was we do things differently than the world. That's also why, which I think it's moved away from that. But a lot of Baptists don't dance either because that's it's like those things.
You could put anything in that box. We don't play video games because we don't do things like the world. We don't watch TV because it's
there are certain parts of Christianity that take it literally like that. That do
I know. I know. That's what I'm saying. Like I'm like So the long story short is no, there ain't nothing, but culturally there is. So
yeah.
Well, I do think the principle of stewardship is a
but
stewardship is also like stewardship is also relative to the person in the sense of, like, for me, if I have an excess of money and I'm either going to go spend it on an Xbox or I'm going to go gamble it on a game, if it's my free money, that's not a bad stewardship thing. That's just what I chose to do. If I wasn't going to spend this money on nothing valuable in the first place, that's that. And entertainment is a value. So it's like, if playing the Xbox, that's a stewardship thing. It's not the best use of my time, but it's not the best use of my money. It's not the best use of my time, but the value I get out of it is the entertainment factor. So as long as that doesn't overtake my life, I'm not in sin. So
I would say though, in moderation, you're talking about in moderation, and people with addictive personalities can't have one thing to drink, so they need to stay away from drink. They can't, they can't do moderation. And so I think a lot of Christians say, like, let's stay away from the vices that can become addictions, like drinking, drugs, gambling, pornography, all that kind of stuff. Yeah. But I hear what you're saying about, like, if you have the margin and you do it within moderation, it's not problematic per se. But I would say a lot of people, it could be problematic for them. Right?
Yeah, that's all I'm saying. All I'm saying is that when we look in the Bible, when we look at what Jesus was frustrated with the Pharisees was the laws that God had. And then the Pharisees built their own laws around the laws and said those are the same level as the actual laws. Right. That was his big frustration. So although it is good to say, hey, this is dangerous, it's not good to build laws around the laws. Mm-hmm. Like, that's all I'm saying.
Yeah. There's a lot of interesting, like, and I'm not advocating for gambling. I was just
me either. I'm not, because I don't gamble. But just letting y'all know, I don't gamble.
But we're talking about a lottery store. But there's a lot of stuff with finances that I feel like, lending, and doesn't the Bible have a prohibition against interest, or our whole financial institution operates outside of what. Or
100%. I mean, like, there was talk about, like, do not take on debt. Like, do not loan money to
even saving.
Group.
Like, I listened to we played hooky from church the other morning and watched a life church sermon. That's our go-to when if we stay home, we watch it's just a sermon on YouTube.
Good save.
And but the sermon was about finances, and also it wasn't just about being a good steward of your finances, but also, like, don't hoard them. Like, there's actually biblical warnings against saving too much. Like, that's not what it's for. It's to you're not supposed to just store it away.
Build bigger barns, right?
Yeah, it's like there's a lot of interesting uncomfortable conversations about when it involves, like, money and kind of perceptions or like contemporary values when it comes to finances.
Mm-hmm. All I had to say, go buy a lottery ticket. Right.
Moral of the story here, guys.
And give us a cut.
Listen, if you win, give me a cut.
If you don't win, you did not hear this from me.
Check to make sure the matches are regulation matches before you go for that new world record. Okay.
Right. Yeah.
They're looking for this. They have an eye on this issue. It's very important.
What do you have, Derek?
All right, so y'all know I'm a superhero nerd, and y'all know that Batman is at least in my top 3. Mm-hmm. Probably number 1, I would say.
What would be the other 2 in your top 3?
Spider-Man would be 2, and then I would think
Miles Morales or Peter Parker.
I just say the icon, like the Spider-Man office, office of Spider-Man would be probably that.
That's valid.
Okay. Just the office of Spider-Man, and then I would just probably pick probably Blade. Blade is one of my favorites.
Yeah,
it's a fun one.
Underrated.
very underrated as a superhero. He's not the most powerful dude, but he's just dope.
Yeah.
I think it probably was the Wesley Snipes movie that did it for me. But anyhow, Christian Bale is my favorite Batman. The Dark Knight trilogy, Christopher Nolan, legendary film series. Love it. And I love to bring stories when people are doing good, and Christian Bale is doing something amazing. He's doing a $22 million project in LA to help foster family, like the kids that have lost their parents, stay together. So, oftentimes in the foster care system, it's so overloaded that sometimes the kids have to get separated. And just like he did in the movies as Batman, he's trying to do that in real life with actually keeping families together. So he said after he had his daughter, he thought about how would her life be if we weren't here? And that really moved him to get into a lot of these foster care situations. And we all know the foster care system is rough. Even in Los Angeles, over 60,000 kids are in the system. So this is a really cool story. Like, I think that is really good. We see a lot of stuff happening in LA and people call it Hollyweird and all that, but it's dope to see someone doing something really, really great and useful.
Didn't Bruce Wayne actually do this in one of the movies, build a foster home?
He did.
Yeah.
He did.
That was the end of the trilogy. Yeah. He turned his home into a foster home.
Yeah, I think this is awesome. And I did see someone say this is going to produce a lot of Robins out there. A lot of awesome crime-fighting, good-hearted people that maybe Christian Bale will use to destroy evil in the world. I think this is great,
let's
man.
Let's not make child superheroes. That is actually a really dark thing.
I get it.
He got these kids out here in the middle of the day just swinging from rooftops.
Either way, I think this is really, really cool. That's all.
See what happens when you don't gamble your money away. You can build foster homes.
Well, ironically, he did this
or you could double it
winning
like
the lottery. Yeah, he bet on Patrick Mahomes, and here he is building.
If you bet on the Swifties, you're gonna win.
Amen.
I said it last night. I said at the Super when they won, I said this is a win for the Swifties,
and it was. We won big.
I saw so many shirts of "Go Taylor's boyfriend" and like on TikTok and stuff. Like, girls,
I was wearing my Eras Tour shirt last night.
Yeah, exactly. Girls having Super Bowl parties to cheer on Taylor's boyfriend. Like that. Like, what is going on right now?
I love it. Me personally, I love it. Yeah, me personally, I love it. I think it's amazing that women are getting to own the Super Bowl in this season right now. It's hilarious.
All right, stay tuned. Up next, Sarah Bessey joins us. You're listening to Ego Apartment. The song is Mad Cooking Machine. Well, Relevant has a lot happening this year, and we don't want you to miss a thing. Make sure to sign up for our newsletter right there on the front page at relevantmagazine.com, and we'll send you our top 5 trending stories sent to your inbox every weekday. We'll also send you a weekly podcast newsletter with the latest episodes, some fan extras, and first peeks at the new shows that we're going to be rolling out throughout this year. Make sure to sign up. It's the best way to keep in touch with everything we got going on. Well, our guest today is Sarah Bessey. She's the best-selling author of Jesus Feminist, Out of Sorts, and her newest book, Field Notes for the Wilderness. She spoke with us about navigating a season of deconstruction in a healthy way, what Christians can get wrong about that journey, and how to come out on the other side with a stronger faith. Here's our conversation with Sarah Bessey.
Well, we're here today to talk about your book, Field Notes for the Wilderness. And I think a good place to start would be, what has your season of wilderness been like?
Oh, that's a good way to start it, I guess. I think everybody kind of maybe has their own
maybe version or vision for what the wilderness has been or is for them. I know for me, like a huge part of why maybe I like the metaphor of wilderness or evolving faith for kind of like that larger conversation around like deconstruction or, faith shift and that sort of things, I think is because it feels like there's enough room there. And so even with notions of wilderness, for me, I think one of the things that kind of almost took me by surprise the first time that I kind of experienced that sort of unmooring, even 20 or 25 years ago, was how lonely it felt. And so I think that that's maybe part of where I experienced some of that wilderness. It wasn't just in the questions and in the losses and in the absence of even like the formulas or the scripts, that oftentimes we're given when we're young when it comes to faith. It was also even that sense of like, am I on my own in this?
So it sounds like you're saying we don't go through just one season of wilderness, but there could be a few in our life.
For sure. I think so. I think that that's one of the things maybe that was both good news and a surprise to me. I think that some part of me felt like after that first experience of really resetting deconstruction of, all right, here's everything I thought I knew about God or about scripture or about the church or about how we move through the world or show up in the world as believers or whatever else. I kind of thought that once that was done and dusted, that would be it. And instead, I think the understanding for me is how often we cycle through these very normal stages of spiritual formation that maybe we've been taught to be afraid of or to avoid or to pathologize. And instead, for me, what I've grown to see is that it's less. I think maybe that's part of the reason why I don't love the word deconstruction, is because it almost implies this sort of thing of like, you tear down and then you rebuild whatever you're going to rebuild, and then that's it. It's static again. And that's just not the experience of faith. I think the longer you live into what you hope and believe about God and about the world, the more you start to realize like, oh, this is a thing you're going to keep doing. This is always an invitation from the Spirit. There is always something to unlearn in order to have room to relearn or learn for the first time sometimes just how loving and good and inclusive and welcoming and generous God is, but also how we are responding to that and then showing up in the world. And so, yeah, I think that wilderness has been one of those themes throughout pretty much my entire life of just when you think you kind of are like, all right, great, I've got all the ducks are in the row and we are doing the thing. All of a sudden you're like, well, everything has kind of disappeared all over again. And here we are back kind of relearning whatever's new. I remember like years ago, I want to say at the very first Evolving Faith conference, my friend Rachel Held Evans defined like an evolving faith as one that's adapted in order to survive. And I see that kind of like adaptation happening for all of us in responses, not only to what's happening internally within us, I mean, although that's important, but also the adaptation that occurs in response to our relationship with one another and our relationship with the world and the questions of our time. And those things come, over time. They aren't all, just in one tidy little formula that you can kind of wrap up a bow on, maybe.
It's interesting to me whenever this, idea of deconstruction comes up, people get a little afraid because it seems like there is a little bit of risk when you start that journey. You go through it, you ask these questions, and the other side might result in walking away from your faith. But it sounds like you're advocating that it is worth the risk as long as we do it well.
I think it is. It's great when we have the choice to take the risk. Right? Because some of us, we do. We encounter kind of a threshold and we're like, all right, you know what? The answers aren't answering here. The scripts I've been given have just kind of fallen flat. The answers that the if this, then that of my faith has disappeared. And then there's those of us who don't really have a choice, right? Where we kind of get booted over that threshold, whether we liked it or not, right? Simply because of either some aspect of our identity or the questions and things that are kind of happening around us. So both of those things are true. I do find it really interesting that a lot of our churches resist something that could be an altar and threshold for a deepening of faith. That there is more narrative of fear and caution as opposed to invitation and welcome to this season of life, which again, back when I very first walked through this, Emily, like there was not the resources and the conversation and the communities that exist now, right? 25 years later. At the time, it was like you would have thought like, well, these are the faithless people. These are the ones who've fallen away. These are the ones who are questioning things. And yet when I looked around me, it seemed to me like we were all the true believer kids. Like we were the youth group kids. We were the ones who were seeing you at the pole and doing all the things and signing up for the stuff and doing the mission trips. And we were the ones with like the deepest breaking and questions. And so to me, it was like, well, that's not, that circle's not going to turn into a square there. And so I think the bigger invitation then is to a lot of our faith communities or to a lot of our faith leaders is to almost expand and believe as deeply in the love of God as we always say we do, right? That it may look very different and faith may look very different than how you were maybe taught or how your community or context or family of origin understood it. And yet there's so much honesty and so much room within the gospel tradition. There's so many different ways of being faithful. There's so many different ways of encountering God. There's so many different ways of reading scripture and of embodying what we hope is true about God. And, and just realizing that like, you know what, listen, the one small story maybe we were given for God isn't the totality of it. And also the love and goodness and welcome of God is consistent. No matter how maybe that gets expressed. I remember like really, really early in my own first stages of deconstruction, my dad reaching out to me and him saying something along the lines of like, that he wasn't afraid for me, which was huge for me because there were so many people around me. I think especially because my husband was in full-time vocational ministry and I'm flailing all over the internet, at the time. But there was this sense of like, I knew people were afraid. And I knew I was becoming a liability in certain spaces. And that's an awful feeling, especially when you're someone who's like conditioned and built to be a people pleaser like I was. So there's that aspect. But then there was this other thing with my dad where he was like, I'm not afraid for you. If you're genuinely seeking God or if you're seeking God, I know that you're going to find what you're looking for, even if it looks different than what I have. And even that amount of permission and welcome is something that I feel like church leaders and pastors and fellow friends or whatever else, even just reflecting that back to someone who's in the midst of that kind of white hot center of deconstruction, to be able to say, it might look different than what I have, and that's okay. And I can trust that God is here in this, and that I can trust that love of God and that welcome and goodness of God, even when it looks very different than what maybe I thought it would.
I would love to ask, if I have a friend who comes to me and it's just clear that they're on a deconstruction journey, what can I do to be an encouragement to them in that season?
I think it speaks a lot when someone comes to you and is open and honest about those things, because it means that you're someone that they feel like they can open up that part of their heart and their questions to. And that's a really tender spot, right? It just is. And so when someone opens up, I think, not being someone who's going to react in fear and react in anger, or in ostracizing, right? Or kind of like, having kind of hitting the panic button. Because trust me, the person who's asking those questions and has found themselves in that place, they're banging all the panic buttons already. Like they're good. They know and they get it. And so if you can be that one voice of peace and that one voice of acceptance and faithfulness and love and continually stir, I think that's maybe one of the reasons why I ended up writing the book was because of those very conversations of people saying, well, what would you want someone to know at that threshold? What would you want someone to know kind of at that point? And I know that personal stories are super important because everybody's is so different. And oftentimes we find ourselves in memoir or in, on people's stories on social media or TikTok or whatever else, in a lot of these places where these conversations are happening. I think especially maybe because we do feel kind of lonely in our actual lived lives, right? Like we can't look around and see anybody else who's in our life who's asking these same questions. And so we turn to other places to find that being reflected back to us, which is beautiful. But I think that's maybe part of it, was just even being able to say, all right, well, here's the things that I would actually want to kind of tuck into your back pocket or into your backpack as you kind of embark on this journey in the wilderness. Like, these are the things that have served me well. These are the places where I feel like, almost like here's a ditch to watch out for because I fell into it multiple times. And here's, something beautiful to look out for. And so I think when you've got someone in your life who's embarking on that, being able to be that voice of God's love and of that lack of fear and even that permission is a blessing to someone, right? And I think even like one of the things too that I've noticed as I look back over my life, the relationships that I've hung on to are the ones who managed to be curious rather than immediately jumping to like, well, here's all the reasons why you're wrong, or here's all the reasons why that's a bad question, or here's all the reasons, whatever else. But being in that space of being like a non-anxious presence, I think is what they call it, but then also a curious one. I think that those are two things that I know served me really well.
Do you think every Christian goes through some sort of season of wilderness, or do you think we need to go through one?
That is an interesting question. The answer is both yes and no. So one of the things that I began to realize, even 10 years ago, as I began to like really deep dive into a lot of this stuff, is how often people have written about this and talked about it, but oftentimes it never kind of quite made its way into our lived experiences outside of seminary or outside of, higher levels of learning, maybe within certain aspects of Christianity. So, I mean, like you had Ricoeur, you have Dr. James Fowler's 6 Stages of Faith, you have Richard Rohr's The First Half of Life and Second Half of Life. I mean, Brian McLaren's models. Like there's a lot of different models for how this looks, from a faith perspective. And so I don't know that you get to escape an evolution in your beliefs unless you work really, really hard on not paying attention. Like, there's always going to be an invitation. It's not always the huge destruction that it is for some of us, right? Like, it's not always the loss and the, kind of stripping away that maybe a lot of us have experienced. For some people, it can be a much quieter, much more internal, much more, slow process over time. But most people do end up coming to that crucible moment of just like, all right, so at this point, and sometimes that's related to age, sometimes it's related to experience, it's related to identity, it's related to questions, it can be any sort of things that can kind of happen. But at the end of the day, staying the same as you were in the beginning is never the goal. There's going to be growth. There's going to be change. It's not always painful, but sometimes it is. And so I think even blessing and normalizing that is a big part of this experience. I mean, there's a lot of people that you can look at, and it's not always connected to age. Like, there's people I know who are teenagers who have experienced, that kind of shift and deepening in their faith. And then there's people that I talk to regularly at Evolving Faith who are in their 60s, 70s, and 80s who are like, well, here we go, and this is a whole new thing. And so I don't think that it's something anyone gets a pass on as much as it is, are we paying attention to the invitations that are constantly arriving for us to renegotiate, almost kind of look at these things, whether it's theological questions or practical questions, or it's deep internal healing work that we ourselves are needing to do. I don't know that anybody isn't always getting those invitations. It's maybe just whether or not we're paying attention to them and receiving them well.
That That was Sarah Bessey. Make sure to check out her newest book, Field Notes for the Wilderness. All right, stay tuned. Up next, it's our Valentine's game. You're listening to Chastity Belt. The song is I-90 Bridge. Today's show is brought to you in part by The Chosen. Season 4 of The Chosen is coming to theaters nationwide on February 1st, and this season has everything. Clashing kingdoms, rival rulers, and when they're threatened by the reality of Jesus' growing influence, religious leaders do the unthinkable. Choose to ally themselves with the Romans. As the seeds of betrayal are planted in opposition to Jesus' message turns violent, he's left with no alternative but to demand his followers rise up. So get ready, relevant podcast listeners. February 1st is the big release day. Go get your tickets now at thechosenriseup.com. Okay, well, like I said at the beginning of the show, Valentine's Day is this week. Do you guys have big plans? I'm asking you guys. Do you have big plans?
I'm probably going to watch a nice rom-com.
You already had your Galentine's thing, right?
I did. It was great.
Yeah. Guys, are you doing something for your ladies?
I will make some between now and
exactly.
I appreciate the reminder.
You got a couple days, buddy. All right, anyway.
Me and wifey don't really trip off of it like that.
You just don't want to give into the Hallmark holidays?
Huh? Yeah, we just not one of them families. We might go out to eat or something. You know what I mean? Might go out to eat.
I'm going to invite your wife to Galentine's next year so she can celebrate.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Well, it got us thinking about love songs, and then that took us to worship songs. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read you a lyric of a song, and you're going to tell me whether it's a love song or a worship song. We got 7 rounds. Here we go. Jesse, you're up first. Here's the lyric. Okay. Your love is 1 in a million. It goes on and on and on. Is that a love song? That's got to be a love song because it's... I feel like if it's worship, it's way more than 1 in a million. I mean, we're talking. Oh yeah, it's Aaliyah, 1 in a million. It's a love song, correct?
Why you ain't give me that so I can get it right?
I specifically saw it first and did not go to you.
I know you dodged that one away from me because I was like, what?
All right, Emily, here we go. Your fragrance is intoxicating in our secret place. Your fragrance is intoxicating in our secret place.
Unfortunately, I think that's actually a worship song.
It is. It's Casting Crowns. Your love is extravagant.
Yeah.
There it is.
That's a lot.
I think it's actually. I think Daryl Evans is the OG writer of that song.
That is
Remember Getting Around?
All right, Derek, here we go. Your voice is warm and tender, a love that I could not forsake.
That's a love.
It is Power of Love by Celine Dion. All right, Emily, can you keep score for me after one round? I believe
everyone has a point.
Everyone has a point. Here we go. Round 2. Jesse, people think I'm crazy the way I'm acting lately. That's true. I'm crazy about you.
And that's a love song.
It's a worship song by Chris Tomlin called Sing.
Chris.
Emily, lay
they
back.
Can't all be bangers.
Lay back, Emily. Lay back against you and breathe. Feel your heartbeat. This love is so deep, it's more than I can stand.
I think it's a worship song.
It is a worship song by Hannah McClure. It's called The More I Seek You. Derek.
So how you lay on God's heartbeat?
All right, Derek, here we go. In a way, I know my heart is waking up as the walls come tumbling down.
Love song.
It is Breathe by Faith Hill. All right, round 3. Jesse, how deep is your love? Is it like the ocean? Pull me closer again.
That's worship for sure.
It is not. It's a love song called How Deep Is Your Love by Calvin Harris.
How deep is your love?
Is it like
You're right. You're right. Stand corrected.
Emily, I want to know you more. I want to touch you.
Oh, that's worship.
It is Sonic Flood. I want to know you. Derek's face is great. Oh, all right.
Hey, these worship songs is out of here, bro. For real. Out of here.
Derek, raise my hands, paint my spirit gold, and bow my head, keep my heart slow.
What? Say it one more time, bro.
Raise my hands, paint my spirit gold, and bow my head, keep my heart slow.
Worship song.
Love Song by Mumford & Sons, I Will Wait. Jesse, I'm desperate for you. I'm lost without you.
That's worship.
It is.
Oh,
Paul McClure, Breathe.
Delirious, maybe? Yeah.
Paul McClure, yeah. Emily, as I feel your touch, you bring a freedom to all that's within.
I think that's Love Song.
It's a worship song by Matt Redman called Pour Out My Heart. Derek, everywhere I'm looking now, I'm surrounded by your embrace.
Worship.
Beyonce. It's Halo. Everywhere I'm looking now.
Whoops. Sorry. Sorry, Beyonce. Sorry, Beehive.
All right, Jesse. Now it's time. Now it's time to free me from the shame. I got to find that peace. Is it too late?
Love Song.
It is Stupid Love by Lady Gaga. Emily, sure. I don't believe in fairy tales. I guess I've outgrown them.
I actually think that's a worship song.
It is Wait on You by Elevation Worship and Maverick City Music. Derek, you are the one I have been waiting for. King of my heart, body, and soul.
That's a love song.
It is by Taylor Swift, King of My Heart.
Thank God you got that.
All right, what's the score update,
Swifties,
Emily?
I'm in the boat with you.
I have 4. Derek and Jesse both have 3.
Okay, these last 2 rounds are worth 2 points each, anyone's game. Jesse, at first sight, I felt the energy of sun rays. I saw the life inside your eyes.
Love Song.
Yes, Diamonds by Rihanna. Emily, then you came along and put me back together, and every desire is now satisfied.
I think that's a Love Song.
Worship song, Graves into Gardens by Elevation Worship. Derek, the day is brighter here with you. The night is lighter than its hue. The day is brighter here with you. The night is lighter than its hue.
Love Song.
Worship song, David Crowder Band, Everything Glorious. All right, final round. Jesse is up by 1 right?
Yes.
But everything's worth 2 points. Here we go. Jesse, I'll give my all to you. You're my end and my beginning.
Worship for sure.
Love Song, All of Me by John Legend. All right, you guys can win it. Here we go. Emily, I don't need to worry now that I know everything I need you've got. I don't need to worry now that I know everything I need you've got.
Worship
song, Honey in the Rock by Brooke Ligertwood. All right, Derek, you can tie her for the win. The way you hold me, hold me, hold me, hold me. Feel so holy, 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 holy.
Love Song.
Holy by Justin Bieber. That's right. Yeah. All right, tiebreaker. I don't know how to do a tiebreaker.
I was ahead by 1.
You were both 1 behind Jesse, and then you both
Derek
got it
was
right.
1 behind me. I was 1 behind Jesse.
Yeah, she won.
Took the dubs.
There you go. You won it. Okay. Congrats, Emily.
She was like, "Hey, don't you try to cheat
don't
me
you
out my
take
way. Don't take that.
I'm sorry.
I don't have a Valentine, so I need this.
I misheard you. I'm sorry. All right. For anybody who would like to be Emily's Valentine, you can hit her up at emily@relevantmediagroup.com. She's accepting applications.
Chill out.
Listen, these days I might take it.
Well, before we wrap things up, I want to thank Sarah Bessey for joining us. Make sure to check out her newest book, Field Notes for the Wilderness. It is a very helpful guide. Don't miss it. Also, make sure to check out issue 114 of Relevant. It's available right now for free at relevantmagazine.com. Just click on the magazine tab. It's presented by The Covenant. We thank them for their support. We have great articles with Brooke Ligertwood, Rainn Wilson, so many other artists and thinkers and leaders, Mike Todd. You should check it out on the website. But if you want to get the beautiful ad-free designed edition, enhanced edition, it looks like our print mag, but it has multimedia stuff. You can get it as part of your Relevant Plus subscription. You get the enhanced magazine, you get ad-free viewing at the website, unlimited archives, you get ad-free versions of this podcast as well. and it all is as low as $2.50 a month. Just check out all the information right there at the Relevant Plus tab at relevantmagazine.com. All right. On that note, we'll wrap it. I'm Cameron Strang.
I'm Jesse Gary.
I'm Derek Miner.
I'm Emily Brown.
Have a great Valentine's, everyone. Hit up Emily.
Thanks for listening to the Relevant Podcast. Check out our features, interviews, and news updates every day at relevantmagazine.com. And make sure to follow Relevant on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram for the latest. For more great podcasts, browse the shows on the Relevant Podcast Network, which you can find at our site. And while you're there, don't miss the all-new era of Relevant Magazine. A new issue releases every other month at relevantmagazine.com.
You get your knives, Jackie Bibby gets a bunch of snakes. 2 men enter, 1 man leaves.
Relevant Podcast Network.